Science in Sleeping, the Secret Science of Consciousness and Dreams. Welcome back to Science in Sleeping. It's good to have you here again, wherever you are in the world. Whatever time it is where you're watching, take a deep breath and let your day begin to fade. Tonight, we're drifting gently into one of the most mysterious landscapes of all, the quiet, hidden world of consciousness and dreams. I hope this helps you drift off gently, or at least gives your mind something peaceful and fascinating to hold on to. You don't need to remember any of it. There's no quiz at the end, no need to stay alert. Just let the rhythm of my voice guide you softly through this journey. A journey through science, wonder, and sleep. Somewhere between wakefulness and dreaming, your mind floats, resting but not gone, listening but not grasping. That in-between place, it's the threshold of consciousness. And that's where we'll begin tonight. I'd love to know where you're listening from, and what time it is for you right now. Maybe it's midnight in London, or maybe the soft light of early morning in Tokyo. Maybe you've had a long day, or maybe you're just here to unwind. Either way, this space is for you, a quiet moment to rest, to learn, and to feel gently connected to something bigger than yourself. Now, settle in, get comfortable, adjust your blanket. Let your eyes soften, your breath slow, your thoughts drift, and as we begin, remember you're safe. You're resting, and your mind can wander freely, because tonight we'll explore what consciousness really is, how it flickers between awareness and sleep, how dreams emerge like whispered reflections of our waking life, and how the science behind it all reveals something deeply human, something beautiful, something peaceful. We'll travel through ancient philosophies, modern neuroscience, and the subtle moments in your own experience, that instant when you're half awake, half asleep, and yet completely at peace. So as your body relaxes and your breath becomes softer, let's drift into the secret science of consciousness and dreams, and let the night take you deeper. One heartbeat, one breath, one dream at a time. Have you ever wondered what happens to your sense of you when you fall asleep? That slow dissolving of thoughts, memories, and awareness. Where does your mind go when it no longer feels like it's here? When the chatter quiets, and all that remains is a calm ocean of nothing. Consciousness seems so familiar, yet so ungraspable. Like trying to see your own eyes without a mirror. You live inside it every second, and yet it slips away the moment you try to define it. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a calm lake at twilight. The surface is glass smooth, reflecting the fading sky. The air is still, cool, almost holding its breath with you. This is what your mind feels like in moments of true presence. You drop a single pebble, a thought, and it ripples gently outward, disturbing the reflection for just a moment before stillness returns. Your consciousness is that lake, always reflecting, always receiving, sometimes stormy, sometimes silent, and just as the water holds both the surface and its depth, so too does your awareness hold both the waking and the dreaming. Scientists and philosophers have chased the nature of consciousness for centuries. Is it energy? Is it computation? Is it soul to a neuroscientist? It begins in the brain, in the electrical storms of neurons that spark and fade 1,000 times each second. They tell us that consciousness arises from patterns, the coordination of billions of tiny messages passing between cells, each one carrying information like a whisper in an enormous crowd. But even if you could map every neuron, you would not find a place where you are stored. There is no single light in the brain that says, "I am awake." Consciousness seems to emerge, not from a single point, but from the relationship between everything. Imagine a symphony. Each instrument plays its part. A violin here, a flute there, but consciousness is not in any one sound. It's in the harmony that emerges when all the parts play together. That's what your mind is doing all the time, creating a seamless experience from countless signals, sound, light, memory, and emotion, all blended into the singular melody you call awareness. Did you know that even when you close your eyes and drift towards sleep, your brain doesn't shut down, it simply changes rhythm in waking life? Your brain waves beat quickly, beta and gamma waves, like the hurried rhythm of daytime thought. But as you relax, your brain slows into alpha and theta, like ocean waves drawing back into the tide, and then, finally, in deep sleep, delta waves rise, slow, heavy, grounding. These are the waves of restoration, of the body healing and the mind untangling itself. Consciousness, some scientists now believe, might be more like a dimmer switch than an on-off light when you drift into sleep. You don't lose consciousness entirely, it just shifts, reconfigures, takes on new colors, like twilight between day and night. This is why sometimes you can dream and still know you're dreaming. That state, called lucid dreaming, is a fragile balance where consciousness hovers between worlds. Philosophers like Alan Watts once said, "You are not in the world. The world is in you." And modern neuroscience agrees in its own way. What you perceive, the stars, the room, the sound of my voice is not directly out there. It's recreated inside your brain. Your consciousness builds the universe from electrical signals, a reconstruction so vivid that it feels utterly real. So, in a sense, your waking life is also a kind of dream, a controlled, consistent dream we all agree upon. There's something comforting in that thought, that reality and dream are not opposites, but points on the same line. Your waking self and your dreaming self are two versions of the same consciousness, one tightly focused, the other wide and wandering. And when you fall asleep each night, you're simply letting go of one mode and returning to another. The part that listens rather than speaks, that feels rather than defines. In deep meditation, monks describe losing their sense of I, merging into pure awareness, a boundless field of being without a center. Neuroscientists studying these states found that the default mode network, the part of the brain responsible for self-referential thinking, actually quiets down, the I dissolves, and consciousness remains still, present, aware. This is not unlike what happens when you drift into sleep. Your sense of self fades, but awareness doesn't vanish. It merely lets go of its boundaries. Have you ever had that moment just before sleep, where your thoughts begin to melt into strange images? A sudden memory, a sound, a flash of light. That borderland is called the hypnagogic state. It's a playground for consciousness, half logic, half dream. And it's there that you can glimpse how flexible the mind truly is. You can fall, fly, dissolve, and yet you're still somehow aware, even in its loosest forms. Consciousness continues to weave reality. Perhaps that's what makes consciousness so extraordinary. It's not just the presence of thought, but the presence of experience itself, the feeling of being here, now, aware. Even when you stop naming, defining, and categorizing, there is still that quiet sense of existence, a hum beneath everything, like the faint vibration of a universe breathing through you. So when we ask, what is consciousness? Maybe the real answer isn't found in neurons or theories, but in the simple act of noticing. The moment you listen to your breath, the stillness between words, the warmth of awareness itself, that's it. That's consciousness, not a thing, but a process, a continuous unfolding that holds you gently in its flow. And if that's true, then sleep isn't the end of consciousness at all. It's simply the next note in the melody, a deeper, slower rhythm in the same great song. When you drift away tonight, you're not disappearing. You're becoming part of something larger, more fluid, more peaceful. Perhaps consciousness is the ocean, and you are the wave, rising, falling, returning to the vastness that holds you. And every night you return home to that vastness, even if you never remember it by morning. So breathe deeply now. Feel the weight of your body settling, the stillness of your room, the gentle pulse of awareness still flowing within you. As we prepare to drift deeper into the layers of sleep and dreaming, let your mind rest on that idea that even in your dreams, a part of you remains quietly awake, watching the dance of your inner world unfold. And as you float in that gentle space, we'll soon explore how dreams arise from the tapestry of your consciousness, how your mind transforms memories into stories, and how every night you become the author of your own inner universe. Let's drift there together, softly, curiously, patiently. Have you ever wondered where your dreams come from? Why they sometimes feel more real than reality itself? Why you can fly without wings, run without moving, or see the faces of people you've never met before? It's as if your mind, once free from the rules of waking life, becomes an artist, a director, and a storyteller all at once. But what invisible theater does it build each night? And what strange chemistry gives birth to your dreams? Picture yourself walking through a city at night. The streets are quiet, the lights dim, shutters pulled down as the world prepares for rest. And yet, behind closed doors, countless windows still glow faintly. Inside them, unseen people move, whisper, and work. That's your brain at night. From the outside, it looks peaceful, silent, still, but within, there's movement, a hidden life, pulsing with energy and imagination. When you close your eyes and the world begins to blur, your brain doesn't switch off. It begins a delicate dance, a slow descent through the stages of sleep, from the light drift of stage 1 through the slow waves of stage 2, down into the deep, restorative sleep of stage 3, and finally into the most mysterious of all, REM sleep, rapid eye movement, the dream stage. Here, your eyes flicker behind closed lids, your heart rate rises, your breathing becomes irregular, and your dreaming mind wakes up within sleep, in REM sleep. Your brain behaves almost as if it were awake. Neurons fire with intensity, the visual centers light up, the emotional core, the amygdala glows like a lantern, but the logical, planning part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, quiets down, the gatekeeper falls asleep, and suddenly, imagination runs free, unbounded, untethered, creating entire worlds out of fragments of memory and emotion. Did you know that during a typical night, you'll dream several times, each cycle of sleep lasting around 90 minutes, and each dream building in complexity as the night goes on. By morning, your REM dreams are the most vivid. Like the grand finale of a secret play, your mind performs just before you wake. Most people forget these dreams within minutes, not because they're unimportant, but because the brain intentionally blocks them. The hippocampus, your memory gatekeeper, is partly offline. Your dreams live in a realm beyond recall, ephemeral by design, fading like mist in sunlight. But inside the mind, the act of dreaming serves profound purposes. Dreams are not random noise. They are emotional rehearsals, memory sculptors, and creative laboratories. When you dream, your brain replays fragments of your day, mixing them with older memories, trying out new possibilities, solving problems you didn't know you had. It's as if the mind becomes a painter, mixing colors from different times in your life, until they blend into something new, meaningful, yet strange. Neuroscientists at Harvard once discovered that people who studied a new skill, like playing piano melodies, improved even more if they dreamed about it. Their brains were practicing during sleep, running silent simulations of their waking lessons, and those who dreamed of it the most learned the fastest. It seems that dreaming isn't just the mind's escape, it's part of its work, the deep processing that turns experience into wisdom. But here's the mystery. Not all dreams are gentle. Some are chaotic, intense, or haunting. Why does the same mind that creates peace also conjure fear? Perhaps because emotion needs a safe space to express itself. When you're awake, you regulate, you filter, you suppress, but in dreams, those emotions find their voice. They replay, they transform, they heal. That's why even nightmares can serve a purpose. They help you face what the waking mind avoids, turning anxiety into metaphor, grief into story, pain into understanding. Did you ever wake from a dream that felt like a message, a warning, or a revelation? For centuries, humans have believed dreams to be divine whispers. The Greeks thought they were visits from gods. Indigenous cultures saw them as gateways to spirit worlds, and now even science admits dreams reveal the deep patterns of the mind. They may not tell the future, but they tell the truth of how you feel. Dreams speak in symbols, the language of the subconscious, where logic fades and intuition reigns inside your brain. The limbic system, the emotional core, comes alive during REM. While the rational mind sleeps, so your dreams are built not from reason, but from emotion. You dream in feelings first. Images come later. That's why a single dream can make you weep or laugh without explanation. Because your brain is translating feelings into stories. Every scene, every strange twist, is your mind saying, "This is how you feel." Even if you don't yet know it, it's also during REM that creativity blooms. Artists, scientists, and inventors have found ideas in dreams. Paul McCartney heard the melody for Yesterday in a dream. Chemist Friedrich Kekulé envisioned the structure of the benzene ring in one. The mind, freed from logic, can connect things it never could while awake. Your brain becomes a cosmic storyteller, rearranging the puzzle of life into unexpected patterns. So if dreams are stories, who is the narrator? Who designs the landscapes, the faces, the emotions? Is it you? Or is it consciousness itself? Maybe it's both. the conscious mind drifts off, and the subconscious takes the pen. It writes in a different language, not of words, but of symbols. And in that private language, you meet yourself again, the self beneath the surface, the self that feels more than it speaks. There's a beautiful symmetry in how the body supports this hidden theater. During REM sleep, your muscles become temporarily paralyzed, a safety feature of evolution. It prevents you from acting out your dreams. You are, in essence, a still body carrying an active universe inside, a silent stage hosting infinite motion. Sometimes, though, the borders blur. Have you ever woken up unable to move? That eerie stillness called sleep paralysis. It's the moment your consciousness wakes before your body does. A glimpse into the delicate choreography of waking and dreaming. For a few moments, you're trapped between worlds, seeing with dream eyes while hearing with waking ears. It can be frightening, but in truth, it's just your mind transitioning, caught between two modes of being in that twilight place. Dreams and reality merge, and for an instant, you can feel how thin the line really is, between what's imagined and what's real, between thought and existence. And maybe that's the greatest secret dreams reveal, that reality itself might be a kind of dream, shared, collective, persistent, but still born from consciousness. So tonight, as you drift into your own inner world, remember that your dreams are not meaningless echoes. They are the language of your deeper mind, your consciousness experimenting with its own possibilities. Each image, each symbol, a whisper from the part of you that never sleeps, even as your eyes close, even as your body rests. Maybe, right now, your mind is already building the first fragments of tonight's story. A doorway, a sound, a familiar face, the quiet assembling of a world you'll soon walk through. A world made entirely of thought, and yet as real as anything you've ever known. Your consciousness is the dreamer, but it is also the dream, the observer and the observed, flowing endlessly into itself. So take a deep breath. Feel the air move through you like a tide. Feel your awareness soften. And if you begin to see colors behind your eyes, shapes, lights, or flickers of memory, let them come. You are entering the architecture of the sleeping mind, the secret corridors of consciousness that only open in the dark. Each dream, a message in its own language. Each night, a journey into yourself. And as we drift onward, we'll travel even deeper, beyond the surface of dreams, into the strange phenomena that blur the edge of waking life, lucid dreams, false awakenings, and the mysterious states where the dreamer becomes aware of the dream. That's where we're headed next, so stay relaxed, keep breathing gently, and let's continue the journey together, deeper still, into the lucid frontier of the sleeping mind. Have you ever realized, right in the middle of a dream, that you were dreaming? That sudden spark of awareness, like a candle lighting up in the dark. One moment, you're simply drifting through a story your mind is telling, and the next, you whisper to yourself, "This isn't real," and everything changes. The colors grow sharper, the air hums, the dream bends ever so slightly to your will. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff that looks out over an endless sea of clouds. You know it's not real, yet it feels truer than waking life. You raise your hand and feel the cool, invisible wind swirl between your fingers. The horizon ripples like a painting that's learned to breathe. You lean forward and let yourself fall. But instead of fear, there's freedom, weightless, unbound, alive. That is lucid dreaming, the moment awareness blossoms inside sleep. Lucid dreams are the meeting place of science and wonder. They sit right at the border between wakefulness and deep dreaming. Inside the REM stage, when most people's minds drift without direction, a lucid dreamer suddenly regains consciousness. Their prefrontal cortex, the seat of reasoning and decision, flickers back online. For a few minutes, sometimes even longer, they exist in two worlds at once. Awake inside a dream, both observer and creator. Did you know that studies from the University of Wisconsin and Germany's Max Planck Institute found measurable brain activity when lucid dreamers made pre-agreed eye movements during sleep, even though their bodies were motionless? Their eyes, beneath closed lids, signaled from the dream itself. It proved something remarkable. Lucid dreamers can communicate with the waking world. They are explorers, sending messages from another reality made of mind. The idea of controlling dreams isn't new. Ancient Buddhist texts describe dream yoga, a practice where monks train to stay conscious while dreaming. To them, lucid dreaming was a path to enlightenment. If you could remain awake while the body sleeps, you could see through illusion itself. Modern science echoes this spiritual idea, suggesting lucid dreaming enhances self-awareness and emotional balance. Because when you know you're dreaming, you learn how flexible reality can be. But how does one become lucid? It begins with noticing the improbable. Maybe you glance at a clock and its hands melt into symbols. Maybe you flip a light switch and nothing happens. Or perhaps you simply feel the strangeness of it all. That soft suspicion becomes a spark, and that spark is all it takes to awaken inside the dream. Some train their minds using reality checks. Throughout the day they ask, "Am I dreaming?" until the question itself follows them into sleep. And one night, within a dream, the question answers itself. Yes, you are. And everything shifts inside a lucid dream. Time is elastic. Minutes stretch into what feels like hours. You can walk through walls, summon forgotten faces, or simply float in stillness and watch light dance around you. The world responds to emotion more than logic. If you feel fear, shadows gather. If you feel peace, the whole dream brightens. Your imagination becomes physics. Your belief becomes gravity. It is the most intimate form of creation, the art of mind painting reality in real time. Scientists once fitted lucid dreamers with EEG caps and saw a strange signature. Their brains oscillated in gamma frequencies similar to waking cognition. They were literally half awake while asleep. That's why lucid dreams can feel sharper. The sense of touch, sound, even smell, more vivid than waking life. Your brain is generating perception without limits, unconstrained by the physical senses. In dreams you see not with eyes, but with awareness itself. Some lucid dreamers speak of doors, doors that lead to memories, doors that open to impossible landscapes. Each time they step through, they feel as though consciousness is testing its own edges, asking, how far can awareness go before it breaks? And sometimes it does break. Lucidity flickers out like a candle in wind. You slip back into ordinary dreaming, forgetting you were ever awake. Until another night, another spark Have you ever wondered why you wake from a lucid dream with a racing heart? Because in that moment, the brain can't tell the difference between imagined and real. Your heartbeat, your breathing, your adrenaline, all respond to the dream as truth. And yet, within that illusion, you were conscious. You experienced reality created from nothing but thought. It raises a question scientists still wrestle with. If the brain can build a world so convincing while you sleep, how do you know the waking world isn't built the same way? Maybe consciousness doesn't enter dreams. Maybe it's the other way around. Dreams enter consciousness, shaping what you call reality from within. There's suspense in that idea. Because if dreaming and waking share the same root, then every night's lucidity is a rehearsal for enlightenment. A small glimpse of what it means to be aware inside illusion. The lucid dreamer learns something profound, that control is an illusion too. You can fly, yes, but you must believe. You can summon light, but only if your heart is calm in the end. The dream listens more to emotion than command. It teaches surrender, disguised as power. Some people use lucid dreams for healing, to face fears in safety, to meet lost loved ones, or to reshape memories gently. Therapists have begun exploring this, guiding patients to rewrite recurring nightmares through lucid awareness. The results are astonishing when fear is met with understanding inside the dream. The nightmare often never returns. It's as though the subconscious accepts closure through story, because in the landscape of dreams, meaning is medicine, but not all lucidity is bliss. Sometimes awareness arrives too soon. You wake within a dream that twists and warps around your fear. The more you try to escape, the tighter the dream clings. And then, suddenly, you open your eyes, or think you do, only to find yourself still inside another dream. A false awakening, layers upon layers, until at last morning, light breaks through, leaving you wondering, how many worlds did I cross before I truly woke? Scientists suspect that these nested dreams happen when consciousness struggles to synchronize, when the brain begins to surface from REM but slips back again. For a moment, awareness loops inside itself, like a hall of mirrors made of thought, and maybe that's why lucid dreaming feels so mysterious. It isn't just fantasy, it's consciousness exploring its own architecture, testing its walls, peering behind the curtain of its own illusion. So tonight, when you drift toward sleep, if you feel that flicker of awareness, if you sense that you're still somehow awake while dreaming, don't fight it. Breathe softly. Let curiosity replace control. Ask gentle questions of your dream. Where am I? What can I learn here? And then listen. The dream will answer, not in words, but in shifting landscapes, in symbols that rise and fade like tide patterns on sand. Because maybe the real purpose of lucid dreaming isn't control at all. Maybe it's communion, a conversation between your waking self and your deeper self, between consciousness and imagination, two mirrors gazing into one another, until they realize they were never separate. And as you feel your breath slow now, your eyelids heavy, remember that lucid dreaming isn't rare magic. It's simply the natural brilliance of awareness, remembering itself, the mind awakening in its own creation, a rehearsal for the greater awakening that waits beyond all dreams. So stay calm, stay curious. The night is far from over, and in our next quiet descent, we'll explore what happens when dreams and waking life intertwine, when the border between sleep and reality begins to blur completely. A realm scientists call hypnagogia and mystics call the threshold. Let's drift there together, softly, silently, carried by awareness itself. Welcome back. Traveler of twilight consciousness, you've journeyed through the lucid dream. You've tasted awareness inside the unreal. Now we drift deeper, to a place few notice but everyone passes through each night. A fragile, flickering bridge suspended between waking and sleeping. A zone where thought becomes image, where reason melts into vision, where the waking mind slowly dissolves, yet still sees, still feels, still knows. This is the hypnagogic threshold, the twilight gate between two worlds. It begins when you close your eyes. The world outside grows dim, and within moments, another world begins to shimmer beneath your eyelids. Tiny bursts of color, shapes, fragments, fleeting faces, whispers. Moments that seem familiar but are gone before you can grasp them. You're still awake, but no longer fully here. You've entered the doorway between consciousness and dream, and here, imagination becomes as real as thought. A single memory can unfold into a moving scene, a stray sound can become a voice, and you start to forget what's real and what's being born inside your mind. Scientists call this state hypnagogia, from the Greek words hypnos for sleep and agogos for leading. The state that leads into sleep. It usually lasts only seconds, perhaps a minute or two, but within that minute, the brain passes through a symphony of transformations. Alpha waves fade, theta waves bloom. Conscious control slips like sand through open fingers, and the senses begin to hallucinate. You might hear your name whispered. You might feel like you're falling or drifting upward through invisible clouds. You might even see intricate geometric patterns spiraling behind your eyes. It's as if your brain, still half awake, has begun to dream before you've truly fallen asleep. Artists and inventors have long visited this mysterious borderland. Thomas Edison would nap in his chair holding a steel ball in one hand. When his muscles relaxed, the ball would drop and wake him. He'd rise immediately and jot down the strange ideas he saw in that liminal instant. Salvador Dali did the same. He called it the slumber with a key, claiming his surreal visions came from that place between waking and sleeping. A place where imagination breaks free of logic but still remembers the rules of reality. Many of his paintings, melting clocks, floating objects, were born in the hypnagogic glow, that delicate twilight where reason dreams. But it's not just artists who wander here. You've been here too, perhaps more times than you realize. That sudden jolt just before you fall asleep, the hypnic jerk when it feels like you're falling off a ledge. That's your body crossing the threshold, a reflex from ancient times. Your brain briefly misinterprets muscle relaxation as a fall and sends an emergency signal to wake you. It's a small reminder that even as you surrender to sleep, the body still tries to protect you, still believes you're standing on the edge of something vast and unknown. In the hypnagogic state, reality begins to shimmer like a reflection on water. Thoughts and images merge. You might think of a friend and suddenly see their face appear. You might remember a place and feel your feet walking there, all while lying perfectly still. The mind becomes a painter, working in light and sensation. It is pure creativity, spontaneous, unfiltered, and yet it feels so real, because your sensory cortex is still partially active. You are dreaming with the machinery of waking perception. The same neurons that see, hear, and feel are firing. But there is no world outside to match them. It's easy to see why. For centuries, this in-between realm was thought to be haunted in ancient folklore. It was called the veil, the time when spirits could whisper into human minds. People who awoke during hypnagogia often saw figures standing beside their beds, shadowy silhouettes that faded as soon as they blinked. Today, we know it as sleep paralysis, a condition where consciousness wakes before the body does. You try to move, but cannot. You try to call out, and no sound comes. Meanwhile, the dreaming brain still projects images, and those images take on terrifying shapes. Visitors at the foot of your bed, whispers in the dark, creatures pressing against your chest. It is fear made visible, the mind's own echo in the half-light. But there's a deeper secret here, one that neuroscientists are only beginning to explore. During the hypnagogic state, the brain's default mode network, the system that governs introspection and daydreaming, begins to decay. You are no longer you in the everyday sense. Ego boundaries dissolve. The sense of time begins to warp. You can witness memories, emotions, and ideas merge into entirely new patterns. Some describe it as being dreamed by your own mind. Others call it consciousness without identity, a silent surrender into the creative ocean beneath thought. If lucid dreaming is the art of waking inside a dream, then hypnagogia is the art of dreaming inside wakefulness. A mirror image, one descending, the other ascending. You stand between them, balanced on the knife edge of perception, able to drift either way, toward sleep or back into waking life. And if you can learn to linger there, not resisting the images, not chasing them, you can catch glimpses of your subconscious constructing reality in real time. The process by which your brain turns ideas into sensory experience. It's like watching the painter before the canvas is finished. Brushstrokes forming, colors blending, a universe being born from thought. Researchers have developed techniques to record these moments using IG scans and real-time feedback. They found that people in the hypnagogic state often produce bursts of creativity, new connections between unrelated ideas, solutions to problems that seemed impossible when awake. It's as though the brain, unburdened by logic, begins to play freely, inventing without the limits of reason. That's why hypnagogia has been called the inventor's playground, a liminal space where imagination and reality overlap just enough to inspire brilliance. But the more you explore it, because the threshold doesn't always open gently, sometimes it pulls you in. You begin to hear voices, distant and indistinct. You feel as if someone is standing in the room, or as though you are floating just above your body. It's an ancient sensation, the out-of-body drift, a product of the parietal lobe losing its sense of spatial grounding. You are still there, lying still, but the brain's map of your body is flickering, and you feel displaced, untethered, as if consciousness itself has loosened its anchor. This is where science meets mysticism again, because for centuries, seekers have used the hypnagogic state for spiritual exploration. Meditators, shamans, monks, they lingered in this twilight space intentionally, not to sleep, but to observe the boundary dissolve, to touch the veil between the seen and unseen, between thought and creation, between I am and I dream, and even now. Neuroscientists studying this state suspect it may hold clues to understanding consciousness itself. Not just how we dream, but how we exist, because the hypnagogic state shows us something extraordinary. That perception doesn't come from the world. It comes from us. Every sound, every color, every face we think we see is woven by the brain, projected outward as a seamless illusion called reality. And when that system begins to loosen, even slightly, we glimpse the machinery beneath, the dreamer behind the dream. So tonight, when you close your eyes and feel yourself drifting, notice that gentle slide between thoughts and visions, the moment when the real world fades but another begins to shimmer behind it. Don't resist it, don't chase it, just observe. Float within it as an explorer of your own mind. You are standing on the hypnagogic threshold, between being and dreaming, between the known and the infinite. And somewhere in that glowing borderland, you may just find the answer to the oldest question of all. Who is it that dreams you? Have you ever wondered? Who designs the worlds you visit when you sleep? Who paints the landscapes, builds the rooms, populates them with people who sometimes know your secrets better than you do? And who decides which memories to twist into impossible shapes, which fears to magnify into monsters, and which wishes to grant like fleeting miracles before dawn, somewhere deep inside your mind? A silent architect is at work, drafting, sculpting, rehearsing entire universes while your body lies still. Picture yourself floating through a city you've never seen before. The buildings shimmer like glass and fog. The streets rearrange when you turn your head. Familiar faces appear where strangers once stood. The moon changes size each time you glance at it. This world feels real. You can smell the air. You can hear footsteps behind you. And yet none of it exists. Every molecule, every echo, has been built in real time by your sleeping brain. A construction so complete it fools the part of you that knows what real means. Scientists once thought dreams were nothing but random noise, the mind's leftovers, neurons firing without purpose, but they were wrong. Now we know the sleeping brain is anything but idle. It's a vast theater of creativity, a laboratory of memory and emotion. Every dream is a story the brain tells itself, a kind of nightly rehearsal for life. And behind it all, the dream architects. Not people, of course, but neural systems that work in concert, each with its own role in designing your private, shifting cosmos. It begins in the hippocampus, the librarian of memory. Here, fragments of your day are catalogued and filed. Moments, faces, thoughts, emotions, all tagged, sorted, replayed. But as you drift into REM sleep, that librarian grows imaginative. Instead of stacking memories neatly, it starts mixing them, splicing a conversation from this morning with a childhood scene, merging a sound from your room with a forgotten melody. The hippocampus is the first architect. It lays down the foundation, the what, the where, the who, and then passes its blueprints onward. Next comes the limbic system, the emotional core. The amygdala sparks like a storm, lighting up old fears, desires, joys, regrets. It's the emotional engineer of the dream. It gives color to the grayscale sketches of memory. It decides whether your dream becomes a love story, a chase, a fall through endless space, or a reunion with someone long gone. The amygdala does not care about logic, only about feeling, and it paints with the boldest strokes of all. Then the visual cortex awakens. Even though your eyes are closed, it begins to draw, turning electrical patterns into moving images. Your brain simulates light without photons, sound without air, weight without gravity. Everything you see and feel in a dream is created here. This is why dream worlds can feel more vivid than reality. Your waking mind filters sensory input through the lens of survival, but in dreams there are no filters, only raw imagination sculpting sensory illusions with infinite freedom. And yet, amid all this chaos, something extraordinary happens. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic and control, goes quiet. It takes a step back. That's why you can fly without question, why you can breathe underwater or speak to the dead. Your inner skeptic is asleep, and without it, the rest of the brain becomes a playground for the surreal. You are both the playwright and the audience, both the creator and the creation, but there's one more architect, one that ties them all together, the default mode network. That mysterious web of brain regions active when your mind is wandering. It's the narrator of your inner story, the one that gives meaning to your memories. And when you dream, it doesn't rest. It reweaves the story of who you are every night. It quietly edits your autobiography, strengthening some connections, letting others fade. Sometimes erasing pain by transforming it into something symbolic, sometimes warning you through allegory and metaphor. Your dreams are not random at all. They are psychological art, healing stories told by your subconscious in a language only your emotions can understand. Did you know that during REM sleep, your brain is as active as when you are awake? In some regions, even more so. Your heart rate rises. Your eyes dart beneath closed lids. The body becomes motionless, paralyzed, so you don't act out your dreams. But inside your skull, it's a lightning storm. Billions of neurons firing in coordinated chaos. The brain is writing a movie that you experience as reality. Every character, every shadow, every sound projected from within, and yet you feel it as the outside world. That's the paradox of dreaming. It's a simulation so perfect that you never suspect the architect is you. There's an eerie kind of suspense in this, because if the mind can build entire realities while you sleep, what does that say about waking life? If the brain can make you believe you're falling, flying, running from something that doesn't exist, how can you be sure it's not doing the same thing right now? Constructing this real world the same way it constructs a dream, through patterns of prediction and expectation, through interpretation rather than perception. Maybe reality itself is another kind of dream, one agreed upon by many minds at once. And yet, despite all the mystery, dreaming serves a purpose far more practical than philosophy. It's emotional maintenance, a kind of nightly therapy. When you relive stressful events in dreams, your brain is attempting to process them safely, to refile them without pain. REM sleep helps regulate emotion by disconnecting the amygdala's fear response. That's why nightmares often appear during emotional upheaval. The system is overloaded, trying to purge and rewrite the story of your day. So, even your darkest dreams are acts of healing, shadow work, performed by your own neurons. Every night, the dream architects rebuild you. Quietly, invisibly, they reshape your memories, rebalance your feelings, refine your sense of self. Dreaming is not escape, it's evolution. Each dream a small recalibration of your mind's universe. You wake each morning slightly different, slightly renewed, slightly more whole. Even if you never remember what was done, and still, there's that uncanny familiarity in dreams. How you sometimes step into a place that feels impossibly ancient, as though you've been there countless times before. A library, a street, a house with endless rooms, where memory and imagination intertwine. Could it be that the architects reuse old blueprints, that somewhere within the folds of your mind, entire dream cities lie dormant, waiting for you to return? Scientists have found that people often revisit the same dreamscapes over years, the same streets, the same houses, the same strange light, as if the dreaming brain preserves certain worlds in long-term storage. Silent archives of your subconscious imagination, built not just from memory, but from pattern, from the neural architecture of meaning itself. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, remember that you are entering a world of your own design. Every star, every ocean, every whisper is crafted by you. Your brain is the builder, your emotions the architects, your memories the raw material, and the dream. The dream is the bridge between what was and what might be. As you breathe softly, feel the edges of the waking world dissolve. The architects are waiting, their tools are ready, and soon they'll begin to build. You don't have to do anything. Just close your eyes and let the mind create. The blueprints are already inside you, waiting to be drawn, waiting to become your next world. And as we move forward, we'll follow the builders deeper still, to see how these dreamscapes aren't just stories, but simulations of possibility. For, in the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when the dream becomes aware of itself, when the architects open the door and invite the dreamer inside. Have you ever looked into a mirror inside a dream and noticed that your reflection wasn't quite your own? Maybe the face changed as you watched, or maybe it refused to appear at all. The mirror in dreams is not glass. It is consciousness reflecting itself, and sometimes, when you stand before it, you begin to realize you are not just in the dream, you are the dream. It's a strange thought, isn't it? That every voice you hear, every person you meet, every sunrise that blooms behind the horizon of your sleeping mind, all of it is you. Not you as in the body, lying in bed, but you as the observer, the creator, the silent witness who drifts through these shifting worlds, watching, feeling, experiencing, and yet never truly separate from what it sees. Picture yourself standing on the edge of a vast mirror lake, the surface perfectly still, the stars above are mirrored below. And for a moment, you can't tell which sky is real. The reflection and the reality merge. That is what happens in the mind when self-awareness flickers during dreaming. The observer and the observed become one, and consciousness loops back upon itself, like light caught between two facing mirrors. Infinite, recursive, impossible to escape in neuroscience. This phenomenon, when awareness becomes aware of itself, is sometimes called meditative. It's what allows you to know that you know, to recognize your own thoughts as thoughts, to realize, mid-dream, that you are dreaming. That quiet click of understanding, that sudden spark of lucidity, is one of the most mysterious events in the entire spectrum of consciousness, because in that instant, the brain becomes both actor and audience, both the painter and the painting, a loop of awareness so profound that even scientists struggle to describe it. Lucid dreamers often say that the moment they become aware, the dream shivers, colors intensify, sound deepens. The air grows almost electric. It's as if reality itself inhales, pauses, then waits for the dreamer to decide what happens next. Do you fly? Do you change the scene? Do you speak to the dream itself? And beneath that choice lies a greater question. Who is making it? Is it the conscious you, or is it still the dreamer dreaming of being awake? Brain scans show something extraordinary during moments of lucidity. The prefrontal cortex, which usually sleeps during REM, suddenly lights up, the same region responsible for reasoning, planning, self-control, wakes briefly inside the dream. Like a lighthouse beam cutting through fog, you become aware that the world around you isn't real, and yet you can touch it, shape it, live within it as if it were. That paradox, knowing the illusion and still feeling it as truth, is the essence of consciousness itself. But it's not just a psychological trick. It's a revelation about how the mind constructs reality. Because even while awake, your brain is doing the same thing. It predicts, imagines, and fills in gaps, creating a seamless experience that feels continuous and real, just as it does in dreams. The only difference is consistency. When you wake, the sensory input remains stable, but the mechanism is the same. You dream your waking world into coherence, moment by moment, using memory, perception, and prediction. So when you realize in a dream that you're dreaming, you're not breaking the illusion. You're seeing through it. It's a strange, almost mystical realization that the self you cling to, the one who says I, is not fixed. It's a fluid process, an ever-updating narrative, a story your brain tells itself to organize experience. In waking life, that story is reinforced by sensation, but in dreams, it unravels. You might find yourself shifting shapes, becoming someone else, or seeing from multiple perspectives at once. That's not confusion. That's consciousness, experimenting with identity, testing what self really means. Did you know that during dreaming, the part of the brain that creates your sense of body, the temporoparietal junction, goes quiet? That's why you can float, why you can become the wind or melt into the ocean. The brain's body map flickers, and for a while, you are pure awareness without boundaries. No skin, no edges, just perception moving through form. This boundaryless self has been described by mystics for centuries. Long before neuroscience had a name for it, they called it the mirror mind, the witness that reflects all things without clinging to any of them. It's tempting to think of dreams as chaotic, but there's intelligence in them, an intelligence that mirrors the waking mind, replaying its themes, recasting its symbols, using story to speak in emotion instead of logic. The dreamer becomes every character, the villain, the hero, the stranger, the lover, because all of them are fragments of your psyche in conversation. Dreams are mirrors made of emotion, reflecting not who you think you are, but what you are becoming. Sometimes you might dream of chasing something that always stays just out of reach. That's not just a story. That's the psyche showing you desire, the endless pursuit of satisfaction. Or maybe you find yourself speaking to someone who's gone, hearing words they never said. That's your subconscious performing a ritual of healing. The mirror mind replaying grief until it softens, until it lets go. Dreams don't obey the rules of logic because emotions are not logical. They are tidal, rising and falling until they reshape the shores of the soul. When you stand inside a lucid dream and realize that everything around you is your own creation, something remarkable happens. You begin to see that same pattern in waking life, the way you interpret others, the way you narrate your own story, the way memory paints reality. It's all the same process, consciousness reflecting upon itself, trying to understand what it means to be. The ancient Tibetan dream. Yogis believed that this moment of realization was sacred. They trained to maintain awareness through every state, waking, dreaming, dying, because to them all were forms of the same continuum, different shades of light on the same mirror. To awaken in a dream, they said, was to glimpse the nature of the mind itself, that the dreamer and the dream were never separate, that reality was not something you enter, but something you create, moment by moment. Modern science echoes this in its own way, through the concept of predictive coding, the theory that the brain doesn't passively receive reality, it actively constructs it. Each sense, each thought, each feeling is a prediction, a guess, refined by feedback. So even when you're awake, you're dreaming. Dreaming a world that feels solid because everyone else shares the same dream. So perhaps the mirror mind is not something that only appears in sleep. Perhaps it's there all along, watching as you wake, reflecting as you act, silent but infinite, every moment, every dream, every breath, another ripple in the mirrored lake of awareness. And maybe that's why dreams matter so deeply, because in them you can practice the art of waking up, not just from sleep, but from illusion, from fear, from the endless stories that keep you small. When the dreamer realizes they are the dream, the mirror no longer traps them, it opens, and what lies beyond is peace. So, as you lie here now, feeling your body soften, your breath steady, your thoughts loosen their grip, imagine yourself standing once again by that mirror lake, the reflection shimmering in silver light. You raise your hand, the reflection raises its hand too. For a moment, you realize there was never a difference, there was never a wall between the dreamer and the dream, between the self and the world, between consciousness and creation. It was all one continuous reflection, gazing into itself forever. And as the ripples fade, you drift deeper, beyond mirrors, beyond names, into the stillness that watches all things, where even dreams rest for a while, waiting to be born again. Welcome back to Science in Sleeping. Tonight, we're going deeper, not just into the calm oceans of dreaming, but into the storms beneath them, into the realm where shadows twist, where emotion takes shape, where the mind rehearses danger in the theater of the night. We call them nightmares, but what if I told you that nightmares are not punishments, they're protectors, whispering in the dark, teaching the brain how to survive what it fears most. Let's journey into that strange frontier, where the subconscious paints warnings in blood and thunder, and learn why, sometimes, you must face the darkness to find your peace. It begins like this. Your breathing changes. Your body paralyzes itself. REM sleep descends. and the dreaming mind awakens. The amygdala, that almond-shaped guardian of fear, flares alive. It starts pulling memories, images, emotions, like threads of electricity sparking through your skull. The hippocampus joins in, sorting through the archive of your life, pulling what's unresolved, what's heavy, what's unspoken. And then the two collide, emotion meets memory, and together they form the architecture of a nightmare. You might find yourself running, falling, choking on air that doesn't exist, hearing whispers that sound too close. The scene shifts. Suddenly, you're somewhere else, an old house, a dark corridor, someone watching, someone waiting, and though you know it isn't real, your heart can't tell the difference. It beats like thunder in your chest, pounding against the bars of your sleeping cage. Why does your brain do this? Why summon terror from silence? The answer is hidden in evolution itself, in the dawn of human fear. When we lived in caves and slept beneath open skies, the world outside was dangerous. Predators hunted, storms raged. To survive, we needed rehearsal. We needed fear that didn't kill. And so the brain evolved a stage, a place where it could simulate threat without real consequence. Nightmares became that stage, a training ground for survival. Neuroscientists call this threat simulation theory, and it's astonishingly accurate during nightmares. The brain activates the same regions used in decision-making, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. It's as if you're practicing how to handle chaos without waking to face it. A rehearsal in the dark for courage in the light. But there's something deeper, something ancient, something almost spiritual about nightmares. They don't just replay fear. They translate emotion into symbol. They turn anxiety into architecture, loss into landscape, guilt into ghost. When you dream of being chased, it's not the chase that matters, it's the feeling of avoidance. Something you haven't faced, something that hunts you quietly while you wake. The dream simply gives it a face, and that face changes until you finally turn around, until you finally confront it. And when you do, the pattern breaks, the monster dissolves, and something inside you exhales. That's not random, that's therapy, the oldest kind there is. Psychologists have found that recurring nightmares often vanish the moment the dreamer consciously faces the threat within them. Even in lucid nightmares, when the dreamer turns to say, "I am not afraid of you," the dream changes, the chaser fades. The room fills with light. It's as if the brain, hearing its own courage spoken, decides the lesson has been learned. Imagine that your mind terrifies you only until it knows you're ready to stop running. It's not your enemy, it's your mentor. Ruthless, yes, but profoundly protective. There's also another layer, a biochemical one. When you experience nightmares, your brain floods with adrenaline. But it does something paradoxical. It suppresses your physical reaction. Your muscles are paralyzed. Your eyes dart beneath closed lids, but your body cannot move. You're a trapped observer inside your own storm. This state allows the mind to rewire its emotional responses, to replay trauma without reliving it physically, to desensitize fear by watching it from within. A rehearsal for resilience. This is why trauma survivors often dream vividly, their minds replaying pain, reframing it, attempting to regain control through narrative. Each nightmare, a form of processing, an unfinished conversation between the psyche and the soul. Yet, not all nightmares are healing. Some are stuck loops of unresolved fear. cycles that repeat because the mind can't yet find resolution. That's when therapy and understanding help, because nightmares, like messages, must be interpreted. They speak a language made of feeling, not logic, and until we translate them, they'll keep speaking louder. There's a haunting beauty in that, isn't there? That the mind, even in terror, still seeks meaning, still seeks balance. Even when the dream burns, it's trying to show you the fire so you can learn to walk through it. Let me tell you something strange. In experiments with lucid dreamers, scientists have asked participants to intentionally enter their nightmares, to step toward the shadow rather than flee it. And what they reported was astonishing. The moment they confronted the monster, the scenery shifted, the nightmare softened. Some said the darkness melted into light. Some said they felt overwhelming love. One described the monster embracing them, saying, "I am you." And in that instant, they woke in tears, not of fear, but of relief. What if nightmares are just mirrors too, but darker ones, showing us the parts of ourselves we hide from the daylight, the unspoken griefs, the forgotten guilts, the ancient fears that evolution stitched into our blood? Every scream in a nightmare might be an echo of survival, a reminder that you endured and that you are still here. Sometimes nightmares come not from trauma, but from transformation. Moments of transition, new beginnings, endings, losses, awakenings, all of them stir the subconscious. Because change is a kind of death, the old self dissolving, the new self not yet formed. And in that in-between, dreams darken not to punish, but to prepare. You might dream of falling, of losing control. That's not failure. That's surrender, the psyche rehearsing trust. Trust that even when you fall, you'll land somewhere softer, somewhere wiser, somewhere new. Think of your nightmare as a storm, thunder rolling through the night mind, flashing images of chaos and loss. And yet, after every storm, the air is cleaner, the ground is richer, something in you breathes easier, because you've faced the weather within and survived. So the next time you wake in darkness, heart racing, skin damp, eyes wide, don't curse the dream. Listen to it. Ask what it's trying to show you. It might be teaching you courage. It might be offering closure. It might be reminding you that fear can be a teacher, that pain, when seen clearly, loses its claws. The shadow of sleep is not your enemy. It's your evolution, the rehearsal of bravery, the architect of growth, the sculptor of the soul. And when dawn comes, and the light touches your eyelids, you may not remember the dream, but you'll wake subtly changed, a little stronger, a little calmer, a little more alive, because somewhere in the dark corners of your mind, you faced what you feared, and you made peace with the monster, and perhaps you discovered it was never a monster at all, just a frightened part of you waiting to be seen, waiting to be loved. So rest now. Let the night do its work. Let your mind paint. Let it teach. Let it heal. The shadows will pass, and in their place, you'll find a quieter strength, a deeper peace, a dreamless kind of clarity that only comes after you've walked through the storm. And as you drift again into sleep, remember this: every nightmare ends in waking. Every darkness hides a lesson, and every dream, no matter how frightening, is the mind's way of saying, you are still learning, you are still alive, you are still becoming whole. Have you ever noticed that dreams seem to last hours, yet when you wake, only minutes have passed. Or the other way around. You feel you've closed your eyes for a moment, and suddenly it's morning. The clock tells one story, but your mind tells another time, it seems. Behaves differently when we dream, as if the laws of physics and whisper, not here, tonight. Let's drift into the strange, elastic fabric of dream time, a place where seconds stretch like silk and hours dissolve like mist, where your mind becomes both the clock and the illusion, the keeper of rhythm and the magician who breaks it. Picture yourself lying beneath a velvet sky, stars scattered like grains of salt across an infinite black ocean. You can hear the tide, slow and steady, waves brushing the shore of your thoughts, each one marking a moment, but not the kind measured by seconds or minutes. This is the rhythm of dreaming, a different kind of time, a softer kind. As your body falls into sleep, the brain begins to shift through its nightly architecture, from light sleep to deep sleep, down into REM, that bright, electrical storm behind closed eyes. And within that REM stage, time begins to distort, not because the brain forgets to keep time, but because it stops needing to. In waking life, time is measured by the external, by the sun, the clock, the beating of your heart. And imagine yourself standing at the edge of creation, where thought becomes space, where memory becomes matter, and where emotion decides the color of the sky. It begins with chaos when you fall asleep. Your sensory gates close, the outside world fades. And yet your brain, it doesn't sleep. It starts rearranging the debris of the day. The hippocampus sorts through the clutter, every sight, sound, and feeling you've gathered, each one a spark waiting to ignite into dream imagery. The neocortex, the grand library of thought, begins to remix, taking fragments of your reality, a voice you heard on the train, a smell from childhood, a street corner under a rainstorm, and it stitches them together, thread by thread, into something new, something that feels real, but isn't bound by the rules of waking life. Did you know that when you dream of people you've never met, you're not inventing faces? You're remembering them, every passerby, every blurred reflection in glass, every face glimpsed in a crowd, all archived quietly by your subconscious. And when you dream, it recycles those fragments, combining eyes from one, a smile from another, until a stranger is born, and you believe you've met them before. That's how the architect works, never creating from nothing, always rebuilding from memory, like an artist painting over 1,000 hidden layers. Inside your dream, there are no limits of gravity, logic, or geography. You can walk through walls, fly over oceans, speak to the dead, because the architect doesn't obey physics. It obeys emotion. Dreams are built not from rules, but from meaning. If you're feeling lost, your dream might build a maze. If you're anxious, it might build a high place, a fall waiting below. If you're at peace, it might open a field, wide and golden, where nothing needs to happen because nothing is missing. In the neural theater of the sleeping brain, the prefrontal cortex, your logical gatekeeper, goes silent. That's why you don't question the impossible. The hippocampus feeds the scenes. The amygdala adds color with emotion. The visual cortex lights it all up in high definition. And together, they become the architect's crew, drafting dreams like blueprints of the soul. Here's something truly fascinating. Scientists using fMRI scans have found that during REM sleep, the same brain regions used for imagination and creativity are as active, sometimes even more active, than during wakefulness. It's as if the mind, freed from the leash of logic, begins to explore its full potential. Your internal world becomes a laboratory of possibility, a rehearsal for life itself. In one study, participants were asked to imagine playing a piano while awake, then again while dreaming lucidly. The brain scans showed identical motor cortex activation, as if the dream practice was real. In other words, the brain doesn't fully distinguish between real experience and imagined one. Dreams are experiences. They leave neural traces. They shape learning. They can even improve performance when you wake. Think of the implications. If you could design your own dreams, if you could speak directly to your architect, you could rehearse courage, practice forgiveness, or simply walk again with someone you've lost, not as fantasy, but as healing. The mind building what the heart cannot reach in daylight. This brings us to one of the great mysteries. Why do dreams feel so solid? Why does every wall, every texture, every sound seem physically real? Even though it's all electrical impulse, the answer may lie in the brain's predictive coding model. In waking life, your brain doesn't see reality directly. It predicts it. It fills in gaps. It guesses based on memory and expectation. In dreams, it does the same, but without correction from sensory input. So, the prediction becomes the reality. The hallucination perfects itself. That's why your dream feels so convincing, because your brain isn't watching it, it's living it. And yet, sometimes the architect falters. You felt it, the moment when a dream flickers, when something doesn't quite add up, when a street bends the wrong way, or a voice echoes with your own tone. That's the rational mind stirring, knocking on the door. A whisper of awareness trying to return. And when it does, you become lucid. The dreamer and the architect merge. You realize the world is built by you. And in that moment, you hold infinite power. Lucid dreamers describe it as exhilarating, like stepping into creation itself. They fly. They reshape mountains. They speak with the dream. They ask it questions. But in dreams, there is no sunrise, no ticking clock, no steady heartbeat echoing through awareness. The mind untethers from the physical world and builds a new reality out of memory and imagination, one where time becomes a fluid, shimmering thread shaped entirely by emotion. Researchers have studied this strange phenomenon for decades. They placed lucid dreamers inside sleep labs, wires attached to their scalps, eyes darting behind closed lids. They gave them a simple task: count 10 seconds inside your dream. Then move your eyes left and right to signal when you're done. To their astonishment, most dreamers counted close to real time, but not perfectly. Some experienced time slower, others faster. And the more emotional the dream, the greater the distortion. Emotion, it seems, is the real clock of the mind. When fear strikes, time expands. Moments stretch out like eternity, every detail sharp, every sound amplified. That's why near-death experiences feel eternal, even though they last only seconds. And when calm or joy fills a dream, time collapses, minutes vanish like smoke. A single glance can feel like a lifetime. Your brain processes emotion through the amygdala and limbic system. the same networks that light up during dreams. But here's the fascinating part. When you dream, your prefrontal cortex, the rational timekeeper, the planner, the scheduler, goes almost dark without it. Your brain no longer enforces linear time. It can loop, skip, fold, create impossible sequences, like climbing a staircase that never ends, or walking through a house where every door leads to the same room. It's not chaos, it's narrative freedom, a story unbound by seconds. Have you ever dreamed you were a child again, only to become your adult self moments later, or found yourself in two places at once? That's your temporal lobe rewriting reality, running mental simulations faster than perception itself. In REM, the brain fires as if you're awake, but the external input is gone, so it builds its own universe. And time, without anchors, becomes pure perception. It's as if the brain, when left to dream, decides to explore the question, what would time feel like if it belonged entirely to emotion? There's a strange grace in this. When you wake from a vivid dream, you may feel as though you lived another life, loved someone you've never met, walked through decades of memory. Yet it all occurred in perhaps 5 minutes. The mind is not lying. It's simply creating an internal version of eternity, a feeling of time, not a measurement. Philosophers have wondered about this for centuries. St. Augustine once wrote, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain it to one that asks, I know not." Perhaps dreams are the closest answer we have, a demonstration that time is not fixed, but experienced, that time exists only where consciousness exists, and even then, it's malleable in dreams. The physics of time obey emotion. When something terrifies you, the seconds drip slower. Your body tenses in a loop of escape. When something fills you with wonder, the scene accelerates, moments merging like a fast-flowing river. The dream does not measure, it translates. Your feelings become the tempo, your memories the melody, and your imagination the conductor. Scientists call this the temporal compression effect, the idea that dreams compress or stretch time to match narrative coherence. If your dream needs to show a journey across mountains, your brain doesn't simulate every step. It cuts just like a film editor, jumping from scene to scene, while your mind fills in the spaces, and yet you never question it, because within the dream's logic, it makes sense. Your sense of time aligns perfectly with the story being told. That's how seamless the illusion is, but there's a mystery still unsolved. Some lucid dreamers claim they can stay aware for hours, whole epics playing out behind closed eyes, only to wake and find 5 minutes have passed. No machine can fully capture that subjective duration, because time in dreams is an internal construction. It's made of memory density, of emotional intensity, and of how much detail the mind generates per moment. When your dream is vivid, rich, layered, your brain interprets it as longer, because it's processing more data per heartbeat. And yet, time also dissolves when you are at peace. Think of the moments just before sleep, when your mind drifts, your thoughts soften, you lose track of minutes. That's the prelude to dream time. The brain loosening its grip on the clock, preparing to slip through the veil. Dream researchers once observed something even stranger during REM. Brainwaves synchronize in theta and gamma patterns, the same rhythms seen in deep meditation and altered states of consciousness. In those states, time perception also warps. Minutes feel like hours, or hours like moments. This suggests something profound, that dream time and meditative time are siblings, both born from the same silence, both hinting that the perception of time may be an illusion, a construct of attention, not reality itself. Imagine for a moment, if consciousness is a kind of painter, then time is the brushstroke, each dream a new canvas, each memory a frame of film. And when you dream, you're no longer bound to the real. You become both viewer and creator, skipping scenes, rewriting moments, extending seconds into eternities, or collapsing eternities into sighs. There's a poetic implication here. Perhaps life itself is a kind of long dream, bound by a rhythm we call time, but one that bends the moment we stop measuring it. When we fall in love, when we lose ourselves in music, when we meditate or fall asleep, time ceases to be arithmetic and becomes feeling. So what if dreams are not the illusion of time, but its truest form? Time not as numbers, but as experience, elastic, subjective, human. The way a sunset feels longer than a meeting. The way a nightmare feels eternal, though it lasts seconds. The way childhood summers stretch forever, and adult years slip by like pages turning too fast. Maybe the brain, in dreams, reminds us what time really is, not a ticking metronome, but a pulse of consciousness, a story unfolding in rhythm with the soul. And perhaps when you wake, with fragments of dream still flickering behind your eyes, what you're really remembering is not a story that happened in the night, but a journey through your own perception of time itself, a rehearsal for letting go of control, a soft lesson whispered in the language of timelessness. So tonight, as you drift deeper, let the seconds dissolve, let the minutes blur. You don't need to keep count. You don't need to know how long it takes. The night is wide. Your dreams are infinite. And somewhere between your first breath of sleep and your final sigh before waking, you'll travel through centuries in the space of a heartbeat. And when morning comes, you'll feel as though you've lived another life. Because, in a way, you've lived in dream time, the only time that truly belongs to you. Have you ever wondered who designs your dreams? Who builds the cities you wander through? Who paints the faces of strangers you've never met? Who writes the script for the stories that unfold while you sleep? It feels spontaneous, random, but it isn't. There's an architect at work, quiet, tireless, invisible, your own brain, the greatest builder in existence. Tonight, we'll step inside its workshop, a place of flashing neurons, endless memory corridors, an imagination deep enough to create entire worlds from silence. This is where reality unravels and then reassembles into dream. So, settle deeper into your pillow. Let your eyes close like curtains before a stage. Let go of the need to control and drift into the next design, the next creation, the next reality waiting behind your eyelids, where your architect awaits, hammer in hand, ready to build your next universe, one heartbeat at a time. Tonight, we enter a world that bends not just imagination, but the very fabric of what we call possible. You're about to drift into a realm where gravity forgets its purpose, where time folds upon itself, where objects melt, reappear, and whisper their own stories. Where the laws of nature, the ones you've trusted since birth, quietly surrender to something higher. The laws of your dreaming mind. Now, settle deeper. Let your breath grow soft and slow. You don't need to hold on to reason anymore, because what we're exploring tonight exists beyond it. It begins when your eyes close, the physical world dims, and the brain, freed from the tyranny of sensory input, begins to construct a universe of its own making. Neurons flicker like galaxies, electrochemical storms ignite across your cortex, and in seconds, a new physics is born. Inside this universe, your body can rise effortlessly into the sky. Walls breathe. Light bends around corners that shouldn't exist. You can stand still and yet move through space. You can see an entire lifetime play out in a few heartbeats. You have entered the physics of the possible, but here's the astonishing truth. Your brain doesn't know it's breaking the rules. To it, these laws are as real as gravity. Because deep in the visual cortex, your mind is not passively watching a movie, it's running a simulation. A dream isn't just imagery, it's physics rewritten. Every surface, every sound, every shadow is governed by invisible algorithms. Your brain improvises, moment by moment, frame by frame, to create a world that feels real, even when it cannot possibly exist. Let's step into one of these worlds together. You're standing in a city made of glass and moonlight. The air hums like electricity. The streets ripple as if they're made of water. Above you, 1,000 stars orbit slowly in concentric rings, like the gears of a cosmic clock. And here's the astonishing echo between dreaming and physics itself. In quantum mechanics, reality is said to exist only when observed. Particles hover in probability, neither here nor there, until a conscious observer collapses the wave into being. In dreams, the same principle applies. You are both the observer and the creator. Where you look, reality blooms. Where you withdraw attention, it dissolves. The physicists call it wave function collapse. The dream calls it magic. Now, imagine this possibility. If your mind can simulate gravity, invent light, generate sound, and create a sense of time and self from nothing but electrical signals, then what is waking life, really? Could it be that consciousness itself is a dream that hasn't realized it's dreaming? Some neuroscientists, like Dr. Anil Seth and Thomas Metzinger, argue exactly that. That waking perception is not reality, but a controlled hallucination, a stable dream agreed upon by many minds. Your senses are merely channels through which your brain predicts the world, and when you sleep, it stops pretending. The prediction must match external data. Are the purest form of perception, unfiltered creation. So when you fly in a dream, when you breathe underwater, when you pass through mirrors, you're not breaking the rules of physics. You're returning to the original condition of consciousness. Before physics was written, before there were rules, before there was real. As the night deepens and your breathing slows, imagine this. You are floating in a cosmos of your own design. Every star responds to your pulse. Every law of motion waits for your permission. The impossible is only waiting to be believed. Because belief is gravity. Belief is time. Belief is matter. And the moment you believe, the universe becomes obedient. So rest now. Let go of your need to understand. Let go of the boundaries of what can and cannot be. You're safe here, in the dream where all laws yield to imagination. The physics of the impossible is not a lie of the mind, but its most honest expression, because to dream is to remember that reality itself is only as solid as the thoughts that hold it together, and tonight, those thoughts are yours to command. Then there's the phenomenon of impossible motion. You've felt it, the way you glide across landscapes without moving your legs, the way you soar without effort, the way you pass through walls as if they were mist. To your dreaming brain, the sensation of motion is created not by your muscles, but by the parietal cortex, the region that maps your body in space. When it activates without input from real movement, your brain fabricates the illusion of travel. You're not moving through the dream is moving around you. It's like standing in the center of a hologram that shifts to match your thought. You think forward, and the world rearranges itself to create the experience of moving forward. Thought becomes trajectory. Imagination becomes velocity. You have become the engine. Now consider the strange logic of dreams, that haunting elasticity of meaning, where contradictions coexist effortlessly. You can stand in your childhood home and know it's also an ancient temple. You can speak to someone and somehow know they are you. You can die and continue watching what happens after. This paradoxical cognition comes from the deactivation of the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational judgment and self-reflection. When it quiets, the brain stops asking, "Does this make sense?" and instead asks, "What does this mean?" Symbolism replaces logic. Emotion replaces continuity. The universe becomes a poem, and you, its interpreter. Scientists studying lucid dreamers have discovered something remarkable. Even when aware that they're dreaming, the brain still obeys the dream's physics unless it consciously chooses otherwise. It's as if the simulation must be rewritten intentionally. Lucid dreamers report learning to bend the rules, but they describe it as an act of focus, not rebellion. You don't force the world to change, you convince it to. You align your belief with a new law, and the dream rewrites itself instantly. That's how flight happens. That's how oceans part. That's how the dream becomes your canvas. It's the mind's ultimate experiment, a quantum state of consciousness where observation alters the universe directly. You reach out, touch a wall, and it folds away like silk. You step through, and gravity changes direction. Now down is sideways. The stars slide past your feet. Your stomach should lurch, but it doesn't, because your vestibular system, the part of your brain that tracks balance, is silent. Your body doesn't feel the fall, because your brain says there is no fall. And just like that, you believe it. This is the power of dream physics. Belief creates reality. Neuroscientists call this the predictive model of perception. In waking life, your brain constantly predicts what's about to happen, where light should fall, how sound should echo, what it should feel like when you touch something. When those predictions match sensory input, you experience reality. But in dreams, there is no input to confirm or deny. So the prediction itself becomes the truth. If your brain says you're flying, you are. If it says the floor is made of clouds, it is. The brain becomes both the scientist and the experiment, the universe and the observer. Now imagine a dream where time dissolves. You're sitting in a small cafe by the ocean. The waves pulse in slow motion, each droplet hanging in the air like glass. You blink, and suddenly it's sunset. Blink again, and it's midnight. Another blink, and you're 10 years older. Time, inside a dream, doesn't flow, it folds. Brain scans reveal that during REM sleep, the regions responsible for temporal awareness, the parietal lobes and parts of the frontal cortex, go quiet. With no clock to obey, the dream drifts between seconds and centuries. You can live a lifetime inside a single REM cycle, 20 minutes of biological time, 1,000 years of dream time. Einstein once said that time and space are illusions, albeit persistent ones. In dreams, they are not even that. Have you ever wondered why old memories resurface in your dreams? A forgotten classroom, a friend you haven't seen in years, a hallway that no longer exists, yet somehow you're there again, and it feels so real, so strangely emotional, as if your mind is quietly trying to tell you something tonight. We drift through that secret process, the quiet, hidden laboratory of your sleeping mind, where memories are taken apart and rebuilt, like stars being born, like galaxies rearranging themselves in silence, because inside your sleeping brain, your past isn't fixed. It's rewritten every night, edited, softened, sometimes even healed. Picture yourself standing in a vast library, but not a normal one. The shelves stretch endlessly, upward, sideways, folding in impossible directions. Every book glows faintly, its pages fluttering as if whispering in a language you almost understand. This is your hippocampus, the keeper of memory, the part of your brain that records where you've been, what you felt, and who you are during the day. It gathers data like a tireless librarian, the sound of rain, the pattern of a friend's laughter, the smell of coffee, the rush of emotion when something unexpected happens. Each piece is stored hastily, filed under, to be sorted later. And when you fall asleep, that's when the real work begins. As you drift into deep sleep, the hippocampus begins to hum, sending delicate ripples through your cortex. These ripples are called sharp-wave ripples, tiny bursts of electrical replay. In those moments, your brain replays your day, sometimes forward, sometimes backward, compressing hours into seconds. Like a film editor, cutting together a final scene, it decides what to keep, what to fade, and what to quietly let go. It's why you might dream about something you thought you'd forgotten, a person, a scent, a moment of joy or pain, because your brain is replaying the past, not as it was, but as it needs to be remembered. Did you know that in REM sleep, the emotional center of your brain, the amygdala, becomes highly active, while the stress centers calm down? That's not an accident. Dreaming is emotional therapy. Your brain takes painful memories, strips away their sting, and stores them again in softer light. It's as if your mind says, yes, this happened, but you are safe now. This is why, after a night of deep dreaming, a heartbreak feels lighter, a worry less sharp. You didn't forget, you healed. Imagine a scene from your own life, a memory that once carried weight. Maybe it was an argument, a moment of loss, a time when you felt small or unseen. Now imagine your sleeping mind visiting that moment again. Not to relive it, but to repaint it. The setting changes. The faces blur. The emotions soften. Your dream self moves differently this time, braver, calmer, weaving the threads of your life into coherence. In that darkness, your mind reclaims order from chaos, meaning from noise. It takes pain and translates it into wisdom. It takes confusion and turns it into pattern. Dreaming, then, isn't escape. It's repair. It's the mind tending to its own garden, pulling weeds of fear, planting seeds of understanding. And when morning comes, you wake with the illusion that the night was silent, when in truth, you've just survived another magnificent rewrite of your past. Now imagine standing again in that great library. The shelves glow softly. You run your fingers along the spines of your memories. Some are crisp, some are worn, some are blank, waiting for tonight's ink. You take one book down. Open it. The words shimmer and shift before your eyes. And as you read, you realize the story is your own. But somehow, it's gentler now, more forgiving. That is the code of memory. Not fixed, but fluid. Not cold data, but living narrative. Your dreams are the quiet editors of your existence. Your sleeping self, the kindest storyteller you'll ever meet. As your breathing slows again, and you feel the gentle pull of rest, remember this: every night, you are not just resting. You are rewriting. You are healing. You are rebuilding the map of who you are. Your memories are not chains. They are rivers flowing backward and forward, forever reshaping the landscape of your mind. And in the silence between dreams, you are both the traveler and the terrain. Have you ever become aware that you were dreaming? That sudden, electric moment when something inside you whispers, "This isn't real," and yet everything around you feels alive, strangely solid, as if the dream itself is listening back. That moment, that quiet awakening within sleep, is one of the most mysterious experiences in all of consciousness. Tonight, we will step into that space, the fragile balance between illusion and awareness, where the dreamer becomes both architect and explorer, where the boundaries of imagination melt into infinity. So, let your breath soften, let your body grow heavy, and allow your mind to rise, light as mist, curious as a child opening a secret door. Because tonight, you're not just dreaming, you're building the dream. Picture yourself walking through a forest made of memory. The trees shimmer faintly, their leaves whisper names you almost remember. You feel the air hum around you, not wind, but thought. Wiser. That's the replay effect, your brain running new simulations, teaching itself new emotional responses every night. You are rehearsing resilience inside the hippocampus. Neurons spark like constellations, forming bridges between fragments of memory. An old event connects to something new. An emotion finds a new context. This process is called memory consolidation, and dreams are its heartbeat. When scientists monitored rats running mazes during the day, they discovered something extraordinary. At night, while the rats slept, their brains replayed the exact same neural patterns, as if they were dreaming the maze, learning even in sleep. Now imagine your own mind doing the same, not with mazes, but with life itself. Your brain replays your conversations, your thoughts, your triumphs and mistakes, until meaning crystallizes. Sleep doesn't erase the past, it redefines it. But memory in dreams isn't linear. Sometimes Your mind mixes centuries, collapses people into one, turns real places into impossible landscapes. Why? Because your brain isn't trying to record the truth. It's trying to understand it. It doesn't care about accuracy. It cares about connection. You may dream of an old teacher speaking with your grandmother's voice. In a room made of clouds, while rain falls upward, every detail is symbolic. Every distortion is meaning in disguise. Your mind is building a metaphor. It's saying, "This feeling reminds me of that one." It's mapping your emotional universe, linking the stars of your experiences into constellations of understanding. Sometimes, the rewriting goes deeper still, into identity itself. Studies show that when we dream, the default mode network, the region tied to self-reflection and narrative, comes alive. That means your mind uses dreams to edit the story of you every night. It updates your autobiography. It trims old pages, adds new ones, sometimes even changes the tone. And what's fascinating is that this editing isn't random. It's compassionate. When you forgive someone in a dream, or revisit a childhood moment that once hurt, your mind is not just imagining, it's rewriting your emotional script. Dreaming is the ultimate act of storytelling, and you are both author and character. There's something beautifully paradoxical about this. Every night, you lose consciousness, and yet your brain is more alive than ever. Each step creates a ripple. Each breath paints color into the landscape in the distance. A lake mirrors the night sky perfectly. You walk toward it, and as you reach the water's edge, you notice something strange. The stars in the reflection blink in a different rhythm than the ones above you. A thought flickers. This is not quite right. And in that thought, awareness ignites. The forest pauses. The lake stills. The entire dream holds its breath. Waiting for your next realization, you whisper, "I'm dreaming," and the world awakens with you. That's the threshold of lucid dreaming, a neurological ballet between consciousness and REM sleep, between the waking mind and the dreaming brain. During dreams, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of logic, reflection, and decision, is mostly asleep. It's why you can see a pink elephant and never question it, but in a lucid dream, a flicker of activation returns. The brain's self-awareness switches on, and suddenly, you, the dreamer, remember yourself. It's as if a light has been turned on inside the house of sleep. Scientists first verified lucid dreaming in the 1970s. Using a beautifully simple experiment. Dreamers trained themselves to move their eyes in a specific pattern, left, right, when they realized they were dreaming. Because even though the body is paralyzed during REM sleep, the eyes are not. When those dreamers made that movement, the pattern appeared on EEG machines in real time. The dreamer's signal had crossed worlds, and since that moment, we've known that consciousness can awaken inside a dream without breaking it. You can be asleep and still aware. But what happens next? That's where things become extraordinary. The lucid dreamer quickly discovers that the dream listens. Every thought, every emotion, every whisper of intention shapes the world in real time. Think of flight, and the ground falls away. Think of a door, and it appears. Think of someone you love, and they arrive as vivid and kind as your memory allows. In this space, imagination is not fantasy, it is physics. The laws of creation bend to your will, because the architect and the architecture are one. But even in this freedom, there's mystery, because not everything obeys you. Dream researchers call it resistance. Moments when the dream pushes back, when the environment refuses to change, or characters act with a will of their own. You might try to fly and fall. You might demand a door to appear, and nothing happens. It's as though the dream itself has boundaries you don't yet understand. Some lucid dreamers describe it as if the dream has its own intelligence, a consciousness within consciousness, a kind of guardian that decides when you are ready to see more. There's a story told by a scientist named Charlie Morley, who spent years studying lucid dreaming as a bridge between psychology and spirituality. He described his first lucid dream as a revelation, wrapped in paradox. He stood in a moonlit city, realized he was dreaming, and shouted, "Show me something important." The dream responded. The sky cracked open like glass, revealing an enormous eye staring down at him, not frightening, but vast, impossibly knowing. Then he woke up, heart-pounding, tears on his face. He said later, "It felt like the dream was aware of me." Neurologically, lucid dreams are a playground for creativity. They combine the emotional power of REM sleep with the logic and focus of wakefulness. Artists, scientists, and writers have long used them as portals into inspiration. Nikola Tesla, for instance, claimed he could test his inventions in dreamlike visions before ever building them. The artist Salvador Dali would intentionally fall into microdreams to harvest surreal imagery from the edge of sleep. Lucid dreaming is that edge, the frontier where thought paints reality instantly. And yet, there's a deeper layer still. Some dreamers report that the more control they gain, the less wonder they feel. So they let go, stop commanding, and simply ask the dream to guide them. That's when the magic returns, because sometimes the dream knows more than the dreamer. What if the lucid state isn't just about control, but dialogue? When you speak into the dream, it speaks back. When you ask a question, it answers in symbols, in motion, in emotion. Neuroscientists have even managed to communicate with lucid dreamers while they were dreaming, asking math questions or word puzzles, and receiving correct answers from people fully asleep. It's as if the dream can think. Imagine that a mind within your mind, a consciousness nested inside your own, alive only when you close your eyes. But here's the real mystery. When lucid dreamers wake, their sense of self changes. They describe feeling more whole, more centered, more at peace. Because once you realize that your mind can construct entire worlds, your perspective on waking life softens. You begin to see reality itself as another lucid dream, a shared illusion, built from collective belief, and that realization isn't frightening. It's freeing, because if life is a lucid dream, then fear loses its power. You are no longer a character trapped in the story. You are the storyteller, learning to love your own creation. So, as your breathing slows and your body melts deeper into stillness, imagine you're standing at the edge of a vast dreamscape, the ground made of thought, the stars made of memory, the air shimmering with possibility. You reach out, and the dream reaches back. There's no line between what's real and imagined, only awareness, only the gentle hum of consciousness discovering itself again and again. You close your eyes and whisper softly, "I know I'm dreaming." And somewhere, deep within that luminous architecture, the dream smiles back and says, "I know."